Thank you. Good evening. It is truly an honor to be here. I am thrilled to see lots of old friends and hopefully make some new friends as the night goes on. And I want to say a special thanks to NEWIEE, to the board, and to everybody. Can we just give them a round of applause? They do a great job. I'm here tonight to share with you a couple thoughts I have, reflections on my career, and really where we are today. It's an exciting time. It's also a very challenging time. Energy and environment are really at the forefront of many of the issues that we face. As you know, climate change and overpopulation are some of our biggest challenges. So how we use energy in our future is integral to the way we're going to live, and it's clear that we need to focus on that now, and finding a sustainable path forward is a must. Many of you know there are lots of sobering statistics. I wanted to share a couple with you. 2018 was the 4th warmest year on record. Rising temperatures are going to affect everything: the food we eat, the oceans we depend on, our health, our susceptibility to disease, where we live and where we can't live. And extreme weather events are going to continue to distance people, drive up costs, and make places uninhabitable. In short, the world needs us. The world needs you. I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about why I think Jackie invited me to speak tonight. As she mentioned to you, I've spent about 35 years of my career working on the issues of ozone depletion and global climate change. I've been afforded the chance to work on these international air pollution issues, and I've worked both at Energy Star and at the Department of Energy. I spent most of my career at the Environmental Protection Agency. I came over to the Department of Energy in 2011, and I've spent most of the time working in the government, spurring action to be more efficient with our use of energy. For it's our use of energy that's really one of the major contributors of climate change. So whether it was helping to design and run a brand that helped consumers, businesses, and others identify energy-efficient products, or now the work I'm doing at the Department of Energy, which is collaborating with leaders throughout the market to show us a path forward, really energy efficiency is a very important strategy for all of us. And it's important to recognize how important partnerships are, how important leadership is, and how important people are. So I'm a fan of Oprah Winfrey, and she talks a lot about a lot of things, but the thing I'm going to focus on tonight is something that she does when she talks about things she knows for sure. So I'm going to take a page out of her book or her magazine and talk about a few things that I've learned in my career, that I've realized, that I've come to believe, or that I've experienced, things I know for sure. And I hope that these prompt you, regardless of where you are in your career, to think about what we can do, what we do, and what holds us back. So with that, I'm just going to tell you 4 things that I know for sure. The first thing that I know for sure is how important partnerships and leadership really are. Climate and energy issues are complex problems that require sophisticated solutions. Indeed, they really require us working together, particularly when it comes to energy efficiency and harnessing all the benefits that energy efficiency can deliver. So let's just remind ourselves about our energy use in this country. As a nation, we spend about $200 billion a year to run our buildings, about another $200 billion to run our homes, and about roughly another $200 billion to run our manufacturing facilities and plants. And we know on average 20 to 30% of that energy is wasted. We know that there are cost-effective solutions that make efficiency not only affordable, but a really easy, low-risk path. And there are new technologies in the marketplace that make energy savings possible if people are willing to commit to slightly longer paybacks that can reduce the energy use in our buildings 50, 60, 70%. So it was that realization that the Energy Star program was born. We were trying to figure out how consumers could get what they want, and a way for manufacturers to win and use technology advancement to save energy. And because of the Energy Star label, as Jackie was mentioning, it's a label, it's easy, it's binary. It was really working in partnership that program came to be. And working in partnership, we changed the way that we did business, and we brought energy efficiency to the market in a much faster way than we would have had we tried to litigate it in court. Right? The first product that we ever put an Energy Star label on was computers. And what we were able to do is deliver computers with the Energy Star mark to the market in a year and a half. So manufacturers were able to retool. That happened because of partnerships, and it happened because of leadership. And instead of fighting things out in the courts, we found a path forward, a new way of thinking, if you will, that really embraced the idea that we need to work together and find solutions that work for everyone. I also see this through the Better Buildings Initiative that I oversee at the Department of Energy, where we work with hundreds of organizations, public and private, to get them to step up to a portfolio-wide energy efficiency goal and share what they're doing with others so that not every organization has to start from the first step or ground zero and learn and embrace energy efficiency. So one of the things that we do in the Better Buildings Initiative is that we ask the CEOs to sign the agreement. And it's really important. That leadership is really important. That leadership, that senior leadership, helps overcome inertia and change norms. So the importance of partnerships and leadership are going to be integral in how we move forward on energy and environmental issues. For the second thing that I know is true, I'm going to tell you a story. And it's the story of how Energy Star as a program came to be. And it's a story that revealed a pretty seminal moment in my career. But let me take you back, because I was thinking earlier today, we're in a world where we've got a lot of public-private partnerships, and we've done a lot. But when we were working on these issues in the 1980s and 1990s at EPA, it was a different world. I was the second or third person hired at EPA by a man who realized that the ozone layer was depleting. I was telling somebody at the reception tonight that his boss called me Chicken Little because the senior management at EPA didn't believe that the ozone layer was depleting, right? So I was with a group of people. Yeah, that's a little scary to have your boss's boss call you Chicken Little while you're waiting for the elevator. A little sobering. So the people that I was brought to work with at EPA had published a report in 1983 called Can We Delay a Greenhouse Warming? So they recognized that the climate was changing, they recognized that the ozone layer was a problem, and the first place to focus was on the ozone layer. So once the Montreal Protocol had been signed in 1987, climate change came back to the fore, and we were trying to figure out how we were going to tackle the next large international air pollution issue. And so we did a lot of work, a lot of research. We spent a couple years analyzing the opportunities, and we realized that there's a lot of things that existed that were energy efficient, or that could be, that weren't, and that was a tremendous opportunity for us. But remember, EPA at the time was a regulatory agency, right? It was an agency that focused on, it had lawyers, we have Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act, we were really focused on enforcing environmental protection throughout the country. So there was a small group of people, and we were, so that's the backdrop, right? You got to know it's not the world we live in now. We were at a regulatory agency, and there was a small group of people led by a gentleman named John Hoffman, who really had this vision and this desire to protect the climate, and we were going to do it through energy efficiency. So we spent a lot of time traveling around, and what we heard in boardrooms was don't mention climate, because no one believes in it, no one knows what it is, so don't mention the word climate. And so we really had to understand what was stopping organizations from embracing energy efficiency. So we launched a program called Green Lights, and that went on, and many of you remember the days of Green Lights, so it was a lighting program. But the second thing was we were trying to think about how we get consumers to embrace energy efficiency. So we came up with this idea, after walking through offices, that the computers were on and no one was using them. And we thought, well, that's pretty blatant in terms of waste of energy. So we sat down with the computer manufacturers. Now remember, it was the 80s and the 90s. It was very much a commodity-based market. There were companies that don't exist anymore, people like Gateway and Dell, and lots of manufacturers who are making computers. And so we sat down with the computer manufacturers and we said, what can we do to be more energy efficient? And they said, well, we're already making laptops fairly efficient. We didn't know you cared about desktops. If you care, we can retool our manufacturing, and we said we do. So this idea that manufacturers win, the public wins, and then the consumers win because they can identify an energy efficient product. So it was great. The person leading the charge, I have to give credit to, is Kathy Zoe at the EPA. She, if any of you know Kathy, she is tenacious, energetic, does not take no for an answer, and she and John were both incredible outside-the-box thinkers, and they came up with this idea of Energy Star. So we'd had these discussions with these computer manufacturers, and then Kathy went and talked to the EPA attorneys. I'll never forget that day. Kathy came back, and she was just dejected. And for a woman who's got a lot of energy, it was really crazy and sort of frightening to see how depressed she was. She came back and she said to John, I just talked to the attorneys, and they said no. So all this work we've done on making energy efficiency and giving consumers the right information, we're not going to be able to do it. And John looked at her and said, go find another lawyer. And we did. And now Energy Star has saved businesses and consumers hundreds of billions of dollars and prevented millions of tons of CO2. And so the lesson I learned from that day was persist. There will be no's, there will be bad days, and there will be days when things don't go your way. But it's how you respond to them that defines you. So I think that's a really important lesson. It certainly was for me, and it made me realize that there are always other lawyers. So, big one for me. So. The third thing I know for sure, and you probably have sort of picked this up in some of my remarks so far, are the importance of working with people that you respect and can learn from. When the time comes in your career, you should be one of those people too. And there are many of you in the room who are at that stage in your career. I've been very fortunate to have both male and female mentors. I've also been fortunate to have mentors that weren't your typical mentors, right? They weren't people working or that I was directly working for, but I was working with. The global energy manager at Mobil Oil, before it was ExxonMobil, was truly a mentor in my career because it was working with people who were willing to teach. I didn't know much about how a company or a corporation, a large corporation, ran, and these people really did help influence my career. So one of the things as young people come and ask me, what should I do? I always say, go find someone that you think you can learn from and go learn from them. What I will also tell you is that if John Hoffman had run the janitorial services at EPA, I would have worked for him. So in some cases, it's not always because the issues and the work they're doing is what you want. It's who can you learn from that will help you move your career forward. So my mentors have taught me a lot, and a couple of things are really important. One is do your homework, right? You go in knowing what it is you're there to do. Second thing is know the problem you're trying to solve. I encountered this a lot in the federal government, so maybe it exists in your organization too, but sometimes people are thrashing around and don't really understand the problem they're trying to solve, so I think that's really important. Work hard, that's a pretty easy one. Know your stuff, know your partners, and know the issue that you're trying to solve. Let me give you another John Hoffman story. John oversaw all the work we did at EPA on climate change and greenhouse gases, and carbon dioxide is an important greenhouse gas, so is methane. And some methane comes from coal mines. So the woman who was going to run the coal bed methane program, within a month, John had and made sure that she was in a coal mine, right? You can't work on issues unless you really know what those issues are and live the life of people that you're trying to work with. So we always joked about Dina and the coal mines, but that's a nice metaphor for making sure that you know not only the problem you're trying to solve, but then working in a very collaborative way with people to solve it. Know your facts, believe in what you do, and the last thing that I know for sure about working for people that you respect is don't be afraid to consider yourself a salesperson. At the Department of Energy, I make sure that everybody on my team recognizes that their job title includes salesperson. And that freaks out a lot of the PhDs and the engineers. They don't want to sell. But my view is we are all salespeople. We are selling a different vision for the future. We are selling answers to problems. We are selling collaboration. We're selling partnership. And we're selling solutions to climate change. So we are all salespeople. And you should know that and embrace that and feel good about that, because that's really important. Okay, I have to have one more sip of water. Okay, the last thing that I know for sure is that individuals matter. People matter. It's probably one of the most amazing things that I have seen and continue to see in my career, both at EPA and DOE, is the difference one person can make. At Energy Star, and now working with hundreds of organizations through the Better Buildings Challenge, I see the difference that a single person can make. Look, organizations are different. I've always said organizations are kind of like families. They all look alike on the outside, but inside they're all different. Right? They all have their own cultures, they all have their own dysfunction, they all have their own norms, they all have their own personalities. So they're different, but every partner I'm working with through the Better Buildings Challenge, I can tell you to a name who the person is at that organization who is successful and is driving change. It's amazing. I can tell you who it is at the City of Orlando. I can tell you who it is at L'Oreal. I can tell you who it is at Staples. I had coffee with them this afternoon. General Motors, you get the idea. I am just bowled over that these people can make and have made and continue to make a difference in their organization. Now, make no mistake, they are part of a team, and part of what makes them so skilled is that they work with teams. They work to empower other people and drive success, but they are the person who's really responsible. And it's not an introvert or an extrovert thing. It's really not. It's just that they know their family. They know the culture of their organization, how it works. They have the desire, the passion. They work hard. And sometimes that working hard is prodding. Sometimes it's coddling. Sometimes it's being creative. But they take the risks. And you'll be amazed, and I think many of these folks have realized that you'll be amazed at how much we can accomplish if we don't worry about who takes the credit. And so I always think about that favorite Margaret Mead quote, never underestimate what a small group of committed people can do to change the world, because indeed it's all that ever has. So really, you possess that power in your organization. Be that leader and be that change agent. Continue to do the work you're doing. So in summary, it's a critical time for our communities and for our planet. Work on energy and environmental issues is absolutely critical to our path forward. We all have to play a part. We need leadership, partnerships, and thinking outside the box to succeed. In fact, the IPCC calls climate change, this is a quote, a collective action problem at a global scale. So I leave you with this. Don't give up. Go find another lawyer. Persist, because history is written by those who do. Second thing is work hard. Challenge yourself. Work the long hours, but don't forget to laugh and be kind. And last of all, but perhaps most important of all, you can make a difference. You can make a difference as a friend. You can make a difference as a colleague, as a mentor, as a leader. Really be that leader. We need you, and the world needs you. Thank you for all you do. I appreciate you having me, and I look forward to helping you congratulate tonight's award winners. Thank you again.